Danielle had just finished a long shift at work and was looking forward to a quiet night at home with her cat, Mr. Whiskers. She was cruising down the highway, humming along to an 80s power ballad, when she saw the dreaded flashing red and blue lights in her rearview mirror. Hell, she muttered, pulling over to the shoulder. The officer approached, his flashlight beaming into her car. "License and registration, ma'am." Danielle handed over her ID, already mentally preparing herself for the speeding ticket. But instead of the officer walking back to his car to write it up, he just stood there, staring at her ID like it had just grown legs and started doing the cha-cha. Ma'am, this ID says Daniel, and the photo is of a man." Danielle sighed. "Yeah, that was me before the surgery. I just haven't had a chance to update my ID yet." The officer squinted at her. "You're telling me you used to be this guy?" She gestured to her fabulous self.
"Yes.
"And now I'm this gal. Crazy how medical science works, huh?" The officer wasn't buying it. "Ma'am, I think you're using someone else's ID. We're gonna need you to step out of the vehicle." "Oh, for the love of..." Danielle groaned as she unbuckled her seatbelt. Before she knew it, she was in handcuffs, thrown in the back of the squad car, and driven down to the station. It was there that she faced the final indignity, a strip search conducted by a female officer who was just as confused as everyone else. "Wait a minute, you do have the right parts," the officer stammered, awkwardly pulling away. "Yes, thank you for confirming that," Danielle said, mortified beyond belief. "Do I at least get dinner after all this?" By the time the mix-up was finally acknowledged, Danielle had spent an entire night in jail, contemplating her life choices, her patience levels, and whether or not she should take up knitting as a less stressful hobby. But Danielle wasn't about to let this go. Oh no. This was prime-time legal action material. She found herself a lawyer who was just as appalled as she was, and also happened to have an impeccable fashion sense, which she deeply appreciated. The trial was nothing short of a circus. The defense tried to argue that it was a reasonable misunderstanding. The judge, a no-nonsense woman who clearly had no time for nonsense, leaned over her bench and said, "So, let me get this straight. You arrested her for looking too much like a woman? That's the argument you're going with?" The officer on the stand shifted uncomfortably. Yes, Your Honor." The judge rubbed her temples. "Ms. Danielle, how much money would you like?" "I mean, I don't want to be greedy, but I'd love enough to take a vacation and maybe buy a nice house. And, justice would be nice too." Justice and a house it is. Danielle won her case, got a fat settlement, and bought a beach house where she and Mr. Whiskers spent their days lounging in the sun, sipping margaritas. Well, just her. Mr. Whiskers wasn't much of a drinker. And every time she saw a police car drive by, she just smiled and waved, knowing that the next time an officer pulled her over, she had a rock-solid response ready. "Check again, sweetie. The ID's updated now."